A 7-year-old boy was found not breathing inside a house in Flint Township, Michigan. Police say he weighed 255 pounds. His body showed signs of serious neglect. His home was described by officers as so filthy and crowded with trash that they could barely describe it in words. His parents said he was autistic. They said he was nonverbal. They said he had problems with food. They said he did not like water. They said doctors were inconvenient. But prosecutors now say this was not just a tragic medical case. They say this was murder. The boy's name was Casper O'Brien. And the question at the center of this case is not only how he died. The real question is, how did a child suffer for so long without the outside world seeing him? At 8:30 a.m., he was breathing. 15 minutes later, he was not. On November 4, 2025, police and emergency responders were called to a home in Flint Township, Michigan. The call was for a 7-year-old boy who was not breathing. That boy was Casper O'Brien. According to the police report described in the case material, Casper's mother, Jessica O'Brien, told officers that Casper had been breathing earlier that morning around 8:30 a.m. She said that when she checked on him about 15 minutes later, he was no longer breathing. CPR was started. A family member was reportedly trying to help. Officers and emergency workers arrived and Casper was taken to the hospital. But he did not survive. Before noon that same day, Casper O'Brien was pronounced dead. At first, it may have looked like a medical emergency. But when officers entered the house, the situation changed. This was no longer just about a child who had stopped breathing. It became a case about the condition of the home. The condition of Casper's body. The absence of medical care. And the question of whether his death could have been prevented. Police would later say Casper weighed approximately 255 pounds at the time of his death. He was only 7 years old and about 4 feet 2.5 inches tall. That number shocked the public. But this case should not be remembered only by Casper's weight. He was a child. He was reportedly autistic. He was nonverbal. He depended on adults for food, hygiene, medical care, safety, and protection. And according to prosecutors, those adults failed him. The first call brought police to the home. What they found inside turned the death of one child into a murder investigation. The officers walked in, and could not tell if the floor was carpet or wood. When police entered the O'Brien home, they described extreme and disturbing conditions. According to the uploaded case transcript, officers reported trash throughout the residence. One officer said the mess was so severe that it was difficult to tell whether the floors were carpet or wood. Another description mentioned stacked garbage bags, insects, waste, a strong odor, and unsanitary conditions. This detail is important because the home itself became evidence. In child neglect cases, investigators do not only look at injuries. They look at the environment. Was the child safe? Was there clean space? Was there working sanitation? Was food appropriate? Was the child protected from filth, insects, infection, and health hazards? In Casper's case, police allegedly found a home that was not simply messy. They described it as overwhelming, unhealthy, and dangerous. Casper's younger sister, age 5, was also reportedly found in the home. Police had concerns about her health and cleanliness too. One of the child abuse charges against Jessica and Damien O'Brien is connected to the welfare of that younger child. This makes the case broader than one death. It suggests prosecutors believe the household conditions affected more than one child. The house matters because it helps show what Casper's daily life may have been like. A child can be neglected in silence. A child can be inside a home and still be abandoned. A child can be surrounded by adults and still not receive care. That is the disturbing center of this case. Casper was not missing. He was not hidden in the woods. He was not unknown to his own parents. He was inside the family home. And police say that Holm told a story of long-term neglect. His body showed signs that this did not happen in one day. According to police allegations, Casper's physical condition was deeply concerning. The uploaded transcript describes police observations of poor hygiene, dirty hair, long and unclean fingernails, skin irritation, open sores, rashes, and signs that Casper had not been properly cleaned for an extended period. These are not conditions that usually appear overnight. This is why prosecutors are treating the case as long-term neglect. Casper reportedly had not been bathed properly for around 6 months. His father allegedly said Casper did not like water and that he was cleaned with wipes a few times a week. But prosecutors may ask, if a child does not like water, does that remove the parent's responsibility to keep him clean? The answer legally and morally is no. Children with autism can have sensory difficulties. Some may dislike water, certain textures, certain foods, or certain routines. But that means caregivers must find safe ways to help them, not abandon basic hygiene. Casper was also reportedly spending much of his day in bed. His mother allegedly said he was mobile, but also said he could spend around 12 hours a day lying down. If a child is lying down for that long, has severe obesity, poor hygiene, sores, and no medical supervision, the risk becomes obvious. That is one of the prosecution's likely points. This was not hidden inside Casper's body. It was visible. It was smellable. It was present every day. A 7-year-old child cannot take himself to a doctor. A nonverbal child cannot explain pain clearly. A medically vulnerable child cannot force adults to care. Casper depended on his parents. And prosecutors allege they failed that responsibility again and again. He was 7 years old, and police say he weighed as much as a grown adult. The number that made this case national was 255 pounds. For a 7-year-old child, that is an extreme and dangerous weight. According to the case reporting, Casper's cause of death was listed as dilated cardiomyopathy, a condition where the heart becomes enlarged and weakened. His extreme weight was listed as a contributing condition. This matters because prosecutors are not saying Casper died simply because he was overweight. They are alleging that his parents failed to address a life-threatening condition. Casper reportedly last saw a primary care provider in February 2024. At that visit, he weighed around 104 pounds and was referred to a pediatric endocrinologist, but according to AP reporting, he never went to that specialist appointment. That detail is very specific and very important. It means there was a warning point. A medical professional saw him. A referral was made. A path for further treatment existed. But prosecutors allege the follow-up never happened. By November 2025, Casper was reportedly 255 pounds. That means his weight increased massively over less than 2 years. The case transcript also says Jessica allegedly described his diet as including potato chips, fries, sugary carbonated drinks, and juice. She reportedly said Casper wanted to eat constantly because of an undiagnosed eating disorder. But if a parent believes a child has an eating disorder, the next step is medical care. Not isolation. Not snack foods. Not leaving him in bed. This is why the weight is not just a headline. It is evidence prosecutors may use to show that Casper's condition was obvious, serious, and ignored. They had health insurance. They saw doctors themselves. So why didn't Casper? One of the most damaging details in the case is that prosecutors say the family had access to medical care. According to AP reporting, the criminal complaint alleges the parents failed to take Casper for treatment even though the family had health care. The uploaded transcript also says Jessica and Damien allegedly went to doctors themselves. Jessica reportedly had a recent medical appointment before Casper's death. Damien's job allegedly provided health benefits. So the issue may not have been poverty. It may not have been lack of insurance. It may not have been that doctors were completely unavailable. The prosecution's argument appears to be that care was possible, but Casper did not receive it. Jessica allegedly gave reasons for avoiding doctors. The transcript mentions distrust of doctors, inconvenience, waiting rooms, and the idea that doctors might only say Casper was fine. But prosecutors may argue those reasons are not enough when a child's body is clearly in danger. There is another detail from the transcript that stands out. Jessica allegedly said the family dog had a medical issue the night before Casper died and that she planned to call a veterinarian. That detail is powerful because it shows medical action was possible when the family chose to take it. A dog had a health concern, and a vet appointment was considered. A 7-year-old child had extreme weight, poor hygiene, sores, immobility, and no regular medical care. That contrast may become important in court. Because this case is not only about what happened. It is about what could have been done, and was not. Casper was alive, inside a house, but almost invisible to the systems meant to protect him. Casper reportedly was not enrolled in school. That is one of the most important facts in this case. School is not just about education. School is also one of the biggest safety nets for children. Teachers notice changes. School nurses notice medical problems. Staff notice hygiene issues. Mandated reporters can contact Child Protective Services. But if a child is not in school, one major line of protection disappears. According to AP reporting, Casper was not enrolled in school, and the home had piles of trash. Prosecutors also said one of the child abuse charges relates to his 5-year-old sister, who was placed in foster care. This is why the case raises a bigger question. How can a vulnerable child disappear from view while still living at home? Casper was reportedly autistic and nonverbal. That made him more dependent on adult protection, not less. A child who cannot clearly speak for himself needs more oversight. More care. More medical follow-up. More attention. Instead, prosecutors allege Casper became isolated. No regular doctor. No school. No outside system watching closely. That isolation may have allowed the neglect to continue until the only call left was 911. This is one of the most painful parts of the case. Casper did not need one person to notice him after he died. He needed someone to notice him while he was still alive. Casper died in November. His parents were not arrested until June. Casper died on November 4, 2025. Jessica and Damien O'Brien were arrested months later, in June 2026. To the public, that delay may seem strange. But in a serious child death case, investigators need more than emotion. They need proof. They need medical records. Autopsy findings. Police reports. Photos. Statements. Evidence of the home environment. Evidence about access to healthcare. Evidence about what the parents knew. And evidence connecting alleged neglect to the child's death. A neglect case may be easier to charge quickly. A murder case requires more. That is why the medical examiner's findings were important. Casper's cause of death was dilated cardiomyopathy, with his extreme weight listed as a contributing factor. Prosecutors then argued that the parents' alleged failure to provide proper nutrition, medical care, and a safe environment contributed to his death. Jessica and Damien were charged with second-degree murder, torture, and 3 counts of second-degree child abuse. AP reported they were held without bond after arraignment. This does not mean they have been convicted. It means prosecutors believe they have enough evidence to bring the case forward. The courtroom must still decide guilt or innocence. But the charges show how seriously prosecutors view Casper's death. They are not calling it an accident. They are not calling it only poor parenting. They are calling it criminal neglect so severe that it became murder. Neglect is one charge. Murder is another. Prosecutors chose murder. This is the legal heart of the case. Many viewers will ask. How can parents be charged with murder if they did not physically attack the child? The answer is that second-degree murder can involve conduct showing extreme disregard for human life, depending on state law and the facts prosecutors prove. The prosecution is likely to argue that Casper's parents knew, or should have known, that his condition was dangerous. They may point to his extreme weight, his lack of medical care, the missed specialist referral, the condition of his skin, his hygiene, his time spent in bed, the unsafe home, the lack of school enrollment, and the condition of his younger sister. The torture charge is also serious. ABC reported that the complaint alleges the parents caused Casper cruel or extreme physical or mental pain and suffering and acted in wanton and willful disregard, resulting in his death. That phrase, wanton and willful disregard, is key. It suggests prosecutors believe this was not simply accidental failure. They believe there was a level of knowing neglect. The defense, however, may argue differently. They may argue Casper had complex medical and developmental needs. They may say the parents were overwhelmed. They may argue there was no intent to kill. They may challenge whether the facts support murder and torture. In fact, ABC reported that Damien O'Brien's attorney said he believed his client was overcharged and said he did not see murder or torture in the case. That will be one of the courtroom battles. Was this severe neglect? Or was it murder? The prosecution says it was murder. The defense may say it was tragedy, not homicide. The case is not over. The courtroom fight is just beginning. As of the latest reporting, Jessica and Damien O'Brien have not been convicted. They are charged. That distinction matters. ABC reported on July 2, 2026, that a judge ordered both parents to undergo competency and criminal responsibility evaluations. Their probable cause hearing was postponed after defense attorneys requested more time to review discovery, including more than 400 pages of medical records. The next court date was scheduled for September 9, 2026. This means the case is still active. The court must determine whether the parents are competent to stand trial and whether the evidence supports moving forward. The prosecution will likely focus on long-term neglect, medical inaction, the home environment, Casper's condition, and the alleged failure to protect both children. The defense will likely focus on medical complexity, mental health, parental overwhelm, lack of intent, and whether the charges are too severe. But outside the courtroom, the emotional question remains. How did Casper reach that condition? How did a 7-year-old child allegedly gain so much weight, develop severe physical problems, miss medical care, avoid school, and remain unseen? That is why this case has shocked so many people. Not only because of how Casper died, but because of how long the warning signs may have been there. Casper was not just a headline. He was a child who needed help. The Casper O'Brien case is a case study in alleged child neglect, disability vulnerability, medical failure, isolation, and system gaps. It shows how a child can be inside a home but outside public view. It shows how school absence can remove a major safety net. It shows how missed medical follow-ups can become dangerous. It shows how disability can increase vulnerability when caregivers fail to provide support. And it shows how neglect can become deadly. Casper's name should not be remembered only because of the number 255. He was 7. He was reportedly autistic. He was nonverbal. He was described in his obituary as bright and loving. He needed adults to protect him. The legal system will decide whether Jessica and Damien O'Brien are guilty of the charges they face. But as a case study, Casper's death already leaves a warning. A child does not have to disappear to be missing. A child can be unseen in his own home. A child can be surrounded by adults and still be left without care. A child can suffer quietly until the world only learns his name after he is gone. Casper O'Brien's story is not only about one family. It is about every system that should notice vulnerable children before it is too late.